Welcome everyone to the 6th software Zoom lesson. We'll be starting in a minute.
Welcome everyone. Today we'll be learning about lists, but first we're going to have a warm-up. For this warm-up, we're going to be making a number guessing game. So how this works is the computer is going to generate a number between 1 and 100 inclusive. So this means it can be 1, 100, 50, 80, and any other number between those 1 and 100. And the person playing the game will guess a number until they get it right, trying to get in the least amount of guesses. Every time they guess, they'll get some information to help them. This information is if the number is smaller or larger than their guess. If the guess is right, the game ends. Another small thing you can do if you want to is you can tell the player how many attempts it took in the end. So here is an example of this in action. So it's going to ask me, what is my guess? 50. I'm going to put 25. 36, 45, 48. So it's 47. No, it's 46. All right, cool. And I got in 7 guesses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's what we're going to be coding. So if you don't know how to start, there are 3 main components in this game. First, we get a random number generated using random.randint 1 to 100. Then in a loop, we ask and take the user's guess. Then we check if the guess is the same as the number. If it's not, we say if it's bigger or smaller than the guess, and then we repeat step 2. If it is, we exit the loop and say they got the number. Also, remember, if you don't remember from last time, you need to type import random at the top of the script to get the random number generation code. Otherwise, it's going to give you an error. Good luck. If you want another demo, type in chat and I'll show you another demo. I see some people in chat have been asking me to give another demo. So here it is. So if I click run, it's going to first say, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. It's going to ask me what my guess is. Let's put 30. It's higher. 60. It's lower. 50. It's higher. And see how it asks, what is your guess? Then it has a space, so it looks nicer. It's higher. 55. And then it tells me that it's higher. So 57, 59. Now it says it's lower. So I know it's 58. And that tells me how many guesses, and it says, good job. Hopefully that helped.
Type done in the chat once you've finished this warm-up activity, this exercise.
I'll show the code at 3:20.
Also, if you're stuck at any point, let us know. Or if you're getting any type of error, we can help you out with that.
I'll be going over the code very shortly at 3:20. All right, see, only 2 people have finished. So if you guys need more time, please tell us in the chat. I'll give a minute for you guys to tell us if you need more time in the chat. Since some people needed more time, I'll be giving 7 more minutes to work on this problem. Remember to tell us if you're done so we know when to move on. And if you need help, please tell us in the chat. Anyone who has Paly Robotics in their name is a counselor and is happy to help. Can you guys type in chat how it's going, the problem? Type done if you're done. And if you're not done, tell us how much more time you need. All right, I'm gonna go over the code. I'm gonna write this from scratch just to make sure you understand how to do it. So first, I like to write a function. I'll call it def game. Doesn't take any input. And first, let's write a greeting. This greeting just has to be something simple. Hopefully you all remember how to define a function. You first write def, then the function name, followed by parentheses and a colon. All right, so now that we have our greeting, let's continue. First, we need to come up with a random number. To do this, we use the random function. First of all, let me call this so we can see stuff. So the random function, you first need to import something, but if you don't, it'll give you a error. So let's see, random dot rand int 1 to 100. So here we define a number equal to a random number from 1 to 100. However, this is going to give an error because we haven't imported it. Let's run this. See, it says name random is not defined. To fix this, we use import random. Now we import the function random and it works. Just to make sure, let's just print out this number. All right, let's try 31, 73, 30. Seems to be working. All right, so what do we have at this point? We have a greeting and we have a random number. Of course, we don't want to print it, so I deleted that. So how can we do this? There are a few ways. First time I did this, I used a while loop. So I created a variable guess, and I set it to a value which I know is never going to be the random number, -1, because this is from 1 to 100. Then while, hopefully you still remember loops, while guess is not equal to the number. So what should we do inside of here? So what this is going to do, it's going to go while the guess is not equal to number. For now, it's going to be a continue forever because guess is never going to be equal to number. So first we need to find out what the guess is. If you remember the input function, it goes like this. Input, you give a prompt, let's say, guess a number. Let's do it like that. Put a space just to be nice. And let's see, guess is equal to number. Or guess is equal, let's print out guess. All right, let's see, guess the number, 10. However, if you remember what input gives you, it gives you a string. So how do we fix this? Well, we cast it. To cast it, we just type in int, and this basically just turns into an int. So now guess is an int. So what do we do? Now we have guess, which is a number. So what can we do? Let's put some if statements. Remember, the syntax for if statement is if, followed by the condition, followed by a colon. What is the condition? If guess, let's start off with is equal to number. So let's print out something nice. Print out, you guessed it. Now we need elif. The format for elif is typing elif followed by the condition. Let's start with guess is greater than number. Then you need a colon, and then you indent once, like before. So what happens if guess is greater than number? That means the number is, so our guess is higher than number, so the number is lower. Now we can put elif again, and then put guess is less than number, but we could also put else. Then we don't need to type the condition. For else, you type in else followed by colon, no condition needed. Then we indent again and print, obviously, because the number can't be lower and it can't be the number, we put the number is higher. So let's try running this. Guess the number, 50, 25, 12, 5, 8, 7, 6. Yay, I guessed it. Now, when I showed you it, I also said how many guesses it has. So let's try implementing that as well. So we can have a counter. And we start off at 0 because there are no guesses at this point. After we guess it, the number of guesses increases. So let's type in counter equals counter plus 1. So we need to print out the amount of guesses after this. So let's do it. You guessed it. It only took, then we need to add the counter, then add guesses. Let's try it out. I need to restart it. All right. Guess a number. 50, 75, 60, 65, 70, 68, 69. You guessed it. Why is it not showing? So one of the things that we didn't do is we didn't convert this to a string. We can do this with str. All right, guess a number. 50, 75, 80, 90, 95, 99. Oh look, it's 100. And it only took 7 guesses. I forgot a space to make it look nice, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, it works. Hopefully you all understood it. I'll give a minute for people to ask questions. If you have any questions, put them in chat and we'll try answering them. I don't see any questions in chat, so I'm going to continue. All right, let's go. Lists. So the main topic for today is lists. So what are lists? Lists, like the name suggests, is a list of values. So why are lists used is because you can add or remove values from a list, and they're great to use when you work with many similar or related values. They can hold any type of value. This includes ints, strings, booleans, and even other lists. We'll talk about that a bit later because that's a bit more special. So here's a sample list with a bunch of words. They're not real words, but they do show a good example. So why it's used is when you want to store an example is if you want to store all the names of people you have met so far. You could put variables of, I don't know, person 1 equals Bob, person 2 is Steve, person 3 equals Bill. Or you could just use a list and put people met equals Bob, Steve, Bill. And this is a good use case because you've probably met hundreds and hundreds of people in your life. And you don't want to put person 158 or person 1023. So you can just use a list and store them all in one variable. This is a lot better, and it's also a lot nicer and gives some pretty cool use cases. So how do we create one? So to create a list, you define it using square brackets, like that. Those are square brackets. And this is similar to how strings are defined using quotes. And inside of these brackets, you put all of the values you want. So here, this is how you define that list we showed originally. You put the strings, foo, bar, baz, and so on, and you would have this list. So what can they store? They can store whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decimal numbers, 1.2, 3.7, so on, strings, hi, bye, cool, nice, booleans, true, false, 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 true. And this isn't really good in practice, and you probably shouldn't do it, but you can have a mix of all of them. For example, you can have 1, 0.5, high, and false. This is not good practice, and you probably shouldn't do it, but if you wanted to, you definitely can. So how do you print a list? This is the first use case that we have shown, is printing them out. You have your words, and you type print words, and it will give you this. Now let's show this in action. Let me go here, and no one needs the code anymore, right? I saw somebody in chat say arrays, and yes, lists are just another way of saying arrays in Python. Arrays are mostly what you would call them in Java or other languages, but in Python, we call them lists. All right, so let's play around with printing. So you can do print. Let's say 1, 2. While it's not good practice, it's still cool to show it. And let's run it. And we see that print out. Now you can also give it a name. L is equal to that. We can print L. And that it prints it out. All right, so let's continue. For the syntax for this, because I saw somebody in chat asking it. So the syntax for this goes as follows. For the list, you first put the square bracket, which is located, at least on my keyboard, next to the P. I'm guessing it is for yours as well. And you type shift, and well, I can't type because I'm not connected for some reason. Let's try reloading. All right, so shift, or not shift, forget what I said with the shift. It's unshifted, and it's a square bracket. Then inside, you put the values. So for a more normal use case, let's put int 1, comma, 2, comma. I put spaces because it looks nicer, but you don't need them. This also works. And they're always separated by commas. There's no comma at the start like that, and there's no comma at the end like that. So this is how lists work. All right, next slide. So lists have these things called indexes. So each value inside of a list is given an index. These indexes are numbers, whole numbers, and they start at 0 and go up with each value. So in this list, foo, bar, so on, foo would have index 0 because it's at the start, bar would have index 1 because it's the second one, and baz would have index 2, and so on. So if you want the second element, it would be baz because we start at 0. Now, you probably are not used to starting at 0 when talking about a list, but in most programming languages, not just Python, you start at 0. So how do you use these elements? So to use the indexes, you want to find, if you want to find out what the value is at a certain index, you can get it by using the square brackets like this with the index inside of them. So this is using the normal list. If you have the list called words, then words at 2, there's no space there. So words, square bracket, 2, square bracket will give you 0, 1, 2, baz. All right, so let's see how this works. I have my list numbers, let's say. It's equal to that. I want to find what is that index 2? Print numbers, the name of the list, square brackets, then inside 2. And that gives 4. And you cannot do 3 because there is no thing at index 3. And we'll go over that, and it'll give an error. So let's see what happens. So another thing you can do is once you have it, you can set it to a new value. So in this example, we have what's at index 2, and we set it to cool. So instead of it being bar or baz, it's now cool. So this is really useful if you want to change stuff that, for example, if you made a mistake or you want to change something because the program needs to change it, you can use this. Let's see this in action. So let's print out numbers. And we have 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4, yeah. And then numbers at square brackets. Then we set equal to, numbers at 2 is equal to 5 or 3 because why not? Print numbers. It changed. Now, another thing you can do is because when you do numbers, well, I believe the numbers. When you do numbers at 2, this is now going to be equal to 4. We can set this to a variable. A is equal to that. We print out A, you'd expect it to be 4, right? And it is. Nice. Well, let's continue. And if anyone has any questions at any point in this, or if I'm going too fast, tell me in chat and I'll slow down or explain it more. All right. So one possible bug, which I already showed you, is when you ask it for index above how many indexes it has. For example, here you see it's only from 0 to 5. You cannot say words at 6 without getting an error. It's list index out of range. So if you ever get this, you should know that you asked for something way too high. Now, you might think that asking for -2, words at -2 would also give an error. However, it doesn't. There is this thing called negative indexes. So you can't access it past the size, but you can access negative indexes, right? They start, -1 is the last element. And note that it's not -0, it's -1. So you'll have to get used to this one being starting at -1, going down to -6, and this one going from 0 to 5. It's confusing, but with practice, you'll get used to it. So words at -1 is chord. All right, so I have an independent problem for you guys. I'll give you 5 minutes to do it, and then we'll go over it. So imagine you are the owner of an ice cream parlor. Create a list that stores all of the ice cream flavors that you sell, and you sell vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, banana, pistachio, coconut, and pineapple. Then print out the second value in the list. And by second value, I mean index 1. This shouldn't be that difficult, but if you're having trouble, please tell us in chat. If you don't want to tell everyone, you can message anyone with Paly Robotics and their name, and we'll be happy to help. Good luck. Tell us when you're done in chat, and if you're done, you can try printing out negative indexes as well. For example, try printing out pineapple using an index, which would be -1. I'll be going over this at 352. All right, I'll be going over the code. Hopefully you guys completed it. If not, here's how you would do it. So flavors, which is going to be the name of the variable, is equal to an array. And let's see what I needed for the stuff. Vanilla, coconut chunk, and pineapple. Let's copy this over so I don't have to type out all of the things. And turn these into strings. So these are going to be the values the array initially has: vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, banana, pistachio, coconut, and pineapple. So remember, an array is started by putting these two brackets and values inside. You can start an array without values if you want, and that's often what you need to do. But in this case, we don't. So we give it a name, flavors, because that's a descriptive name, because that's what these are, flavors for ice cream. So what do we want to do? Print out the second value in the list. All right, 1, 2, it's chocolate. Flavors at index 2, no, 1, because we start at 0, 0, 1. So we need to print this out using a print statement, and let's run it. Now the additional question that I asked was print out pineapple. We can do this by using -1. Also, just to show you, if you put -10 or something that wouldn't work, it's going to give you a list index out of range, same as before. Hopefully you understood that. I'll give you a moment. If you need to ask any questions in chat, please do so. All right, no one asked any questions, so let's continue. Now, I'm pretty sure you're all bored of having a stale list that can't have any more values added to it or removed. So let's start by adding more values. All right, so if you want to add another element to a list, you can do so by using plus to concatenate and then add another list. So with my list of words, I can add the letter E, well, not the letter E, the word cool, by using words equals words plus, and then I need to concatenate with another array or list. So this means that I have to create another list with a starting element cool. So when I do words equals words plus cool, the array cool, it will add that to the end. You can also add more than one letter or one word in one line using this method. Words equals words plus the array containing yes, comma, no, and square brackets. This will add both of them. Now these will have index 6 and 7. So let's see this in action. Let's continue with this example. Flavors equals flavors plus a new array. Let's put dark chocolate. All right, and let's print out the entire array. And you see dark chocolate has been added to the end. Let's put white chocolate as well. Now we have 2 at the end. Now just to recap, this is creating another array, and it has a comma to separate the values. And yeah, now because this is another array, you can add this to, you can name this to a variable. For example, additional or more flavors equals more flavors equals this array. If you're, this is how you define an array: square brackets and then the values inside, and then we can do flavors equals flavors plus more flavors. And if we print out flavors, we have the same thing. Now, one other thing you can do is you can put these at the start by using more flavors plus flavors, then dark chocolate, white chocolate, then vanilla, strawberry, and all that. So hopefully no one has any questions, but if you do, please tell us in chat. All right, now there's a second method of how to do this. Now this, in my opinion, is a bit more simple, but if you prefer the first one, you can use the first one. So this is called .append. And then it's a function that we haven't seen before. We'll learn them next time. So how you use this is you have your list words, and then you write dot, then the function name append, followed by parentheses, and for value cool. You can only add one at a time using this method. So this will add cool to the end. All right, let's see how this works. So I don't need this array. And I don't need this. I do flavors, which is my array name, dot append. And it's critical that you have this dot here. You cannot do append flavors. This will not work. Do flavors, array name, dot append, parentheses, and then what you want to append. Let's say dark chocolate. If we print it out, you see dark chocolate at the end. You cannot put two things. For example, I can't put white. This will give an error. It only takes one argument. And it will only add it to the end. However, in my opinion, this is a lot more simple, and it's a bit faster. All right. Does anyone have any questions on how to add? All right, I don't see any in chat, so let's continue. Now, how can you delete elements from a list? So if we run out of a flavor, we can delete them now. So to delete elements from a list, you use del. This is short for delete. So to use del, it's kind of weird, not like other functions we've seen before. You type del space list, and then the index you want to delete. List is the name of the end of the list, and index is the index you want to be deleted. For example, if I want to delete bar, I would type del words at 1, because that's where bar is, and then it'll be deleted. Now, after you delete them, all the indexes after that will be decreased by 1. So Baz is 2 at the start. After del words at 1, it will now be 1. They'll all be shifted to the left, except for foo, because foo is before it. And you basically just recalculate. So it's now 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Let's see this in action. I ran out of vanilla chocolate, let's say. So let's do del flavors at 0. And now we no longer have vanilla. Now you can also use this like a usual regular function and put parentheses. You don't need to. And this will also run, and it works just the same. So after I do this, let's say I print flavors at 0. This would give vanilla. And let's copy this line and put it at the end. It will change. Why is this not running? REPL sometimes crashes. All right. Now it runs. And you see it changed from vanilla to chocolate because the indexes change. All right. Let's continue. There's another way to delete things, and that's by using the function .remove. This is similar to the thing we learned before, .append. However, instead of appending, it removes a value. So to use .remove, you write the list name followed by dot, then remove, and then the value you want to remove. This is not an index, this is a value. So I want to remove bar. I could do del words at 1, and that would remove bar, or I could do list.remove bar. This will remove bar. This is useful if you don't know the index of the value you want to remove. And this is useful if you don't know the value of what you want to remove. You only know the index. So both of these are very useful and have their own use cases. So let's see how you use this. Like before, let's say these are my flavors. Let's remove vanilla. Flavors.remove. Then we copy this over. Then we print flavors like before. And you see vanilla is no longer here. Now remember, you write the name of the list, in this case it's flavors, followed by dot, then remove. It's not removes, and you have to spell it correctly, obviously. Then what you want to delete. I can also delete pineapple. And there's no more pineapple. Now let's say what I want to delete doesn't exist. Let's say I want to delete cool food. What's going to happen? An error. X is not in list. And X is the value you gave it. So in this case, cool food is not in list. Now you don't want errors, so you got to make sure that the value you want to delete is inside of the list. Now we'll do a project to do with books a bit later today, but how do you find the length of a list? Let's say I have the books that I've read, let's say over the summer or something. Books read is the array, but with the name of the books, 1984, Animal Farm, blah, blah, blah. And I want to find out how many books I've read, because this is what this list is for. You could write print to print, so this doesn't have to do with finding the length. Then there's the function len, which stands for length, then the name of the list. So let's try coding it. How many flavors do I have? Print len of flavors. 7. Let's try counting it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Now, this doesn't have to be used as print statements. You can use a variable, a is equal to that, and then just print it. It's still going to give 7. You can use this in if statements. If len of flavors is equal to 7, print cool, else print not cool. Cool. If I add another value here, let's say dark, or instead of adding it here, like we learned before, you can use flavors.append. And let's see. Not cool, because the length is no longer 7, it's now 8. So you can use this in for loop, while loops as well. You can use this pretty much anywhere. And it's really useful. All right, let's continue. Oh, by the way, just to show what would happen if you have, let's say, a is equal to 2. This is obviously not a list because it does not have the square brackets to make it a list. If you try doing print length of a, you would get an error. Object of type int has no length. But if you want to make this work, you could just put square brackets, and now this is a list. And the length of this list is 1. All right, let's continue. By the way, does anyone have any questions? All right, I don't see any questions in chat. So let's continue. Next function is index of. The function is actually index, but what this does is it finds the index of a value. So I have my usual list of words, foo, bar, blah, and so on. And I want to know what index Baz has. So I can use two things. I can probably just loop through it using a while loop until I find it. Like if this element at 0 is equal to Baz, print out the index, or so whatever you want to do. That's pretty inefficient. That's slow. That takes time to type. Or you can just use dot index and then dot index of Baz. So here is the example for bar. Words is equal to that, and then print words dot index bar. And just a few things to note. If the thing you are searching for does not exist, it will give an error. And if there are two elements of the same thing, for example, if you have 2 bars inside of this list, it will only tell you the location of the first one, the one leftmost. All right, let's see this in action. So let's add another chocolate just for demonstration. And you can still print out the length, or a is not defined. So print out the length. Now it's 8. And let's see, flavors dot index and of chocolate, right? 1. Let's see, 0, 1. This is the one we want. It doesn't give you this one because it's not the first one. So what happens if I put index of cherry, which we don't have in here? Cherry is not in list. So that's the same error that we got with deleting. So how can we stop these errors? Well, you can use an if statement, and well, we haven't learned it yet, but there's the dot contains function. So here are some independent prompts. All right, apparently a slide was deleted. So that slide used contain, which is the function we use to find if it contains something. So let's go over it quickly right now. So it goes contain. Wait, no, it's not contain. It's in. So how you do it is the value. So this is what we want to find. Cherry in flavors. And false. So how this works is you write the value, which in this case is cherry, followed by a space, then in, followed by another space. And in is the same in that we use in range and so on. Then the list that you want. So is cherry in flavors? So this is kind of makes sense if you're asking a question. Is the cherry in flavors? And if you put coconut, it'll give you true because it's actually in there. So
Wait, Luca. I don't think people can see your code.
oh wait, it's paused, I think. All right, so let me show you again. This is the syntax for it. So how it works is you have the string, coconut, the value, in, with a space here, and then the list. And this also works with ints. For example, instead of flavors, I could have numbers, 1, 2, 5, 9, and type 1 in flavor or in numbers. And this would give true because 1 is the inside numbers. And I can put it for 4 as well, and it will give false. Now this is very useful. For example, if you're not sure if you can delete something, you can use an if statement. If 4 in numbers, delete, or numbers dot remove 4, else print number does not exist. So this is very useful in that case because you don't get errors, right? So now we can remove 4 without getting errors. And if we put 6, which is not in here, you do not get any errors. All right, now you should know everything for these independent problems. If you have any questions, please tell us. So we're running a bit low on time, so I'm not going to do all of these problems. I'm only going to do problem 1, 3, and 5. Also, if you're done with all of these problems, please tell us so we know. And if you ever need help, just remember, you can ask any of us. I'll go over the problems at 4:25.
Let us know when you're done.
All right, I'll go over some of the problems, but since I saw a question on question 4, I'll go over that as well. So I'll go over 1, 3, and 4. All right, let's see. Initialize a list called groceries. All right, let's see. All right, groceries. And with the following grocery items: lettuce, bread, ice cream, and tomatoes. All right, let me copy that over. Just remember square brackets, and also I have to change all of these to regular ones. All right, so now I have my list of groceries. So remember, this is the variable name. I'm assigning it using the equal sign, and this is a list. So I'm assigning groceries to be a list with, and to define a list, you need square brackets on both sides, and then values separated by commas. All right, create a function that adds, number 3, create a function that removes all instances of a specific grocery. This one might be a bit harder, but let's see. Def remove instances, let's call it that, and takes a list, let's call it L. All right, remember how you define a function: def name, parentheses with value, with input inside, and colon, then everything else is tab. So how can we do this? Well, we can do while, oh yeah, and I need the value. While value in list L dot remove value. So what does this do? I coded it kind of quickly, so let's see. While loop. So this while loop is going to run only while value is inside of L. Value is a variable. So if in this case value is lettuce, let's say, then while lettuce is in list, assuming this is the list, it'll go true because there's one. Then we do list.remove value. It'll remove only the first one, not all of them. And then this will go back to this statement, and it will go, is value in L? Is lettuce in here if after you removed it? No, it isn't. So it's going to be false, and it's going to continue. Then we return the list. Let's test it out. L is equal to 1, 2, 5, 1, 1. And then we can do remove instances of L, and let's remove 1 because there are multiple of it, and let's print that out. What does this give us? It gives 2 and 5. So let's see. If you remove all the 1s, it will become 2, 5. All right. So that seems to work. Does anyone have any questions on this one? All right, number 4, create a function that returns a Boolean if a specific item is in the list. Well, we kind of just coded that, but let's just do it again. That contains, and let's take list and value, and return value in list, L. So remember, in, you first put value. So for example, you do lettuce in L. So let's see. Let's try it. Contains. Let's run, and true. And if I put some random thing, no, it will give false. All right. So hopefully no one has any more questions on that one. And let's continue. One of the cool things about Python is how easy it is to use loops, specifically for loops and lists. So in other languages, you might have to write a lot more, but here you can just use in as well for variable in list. So what this will do is, remember in for loops, you can do in range where the variable will be numbers from whatever you put in range, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you put in range 5. You can use for variable in list. But let's see how this works. So let's try printing everything out. You can do print groceries, I know that, but it's only in one line, and let's say you don't like how it looks. You could instead do for food in groceries, print food, and it'll print out everything. So each time, food will be a different value starting from 0, from index 0 to 1 to 2 to 3. You could, if you want to, instead do for I in range groceries, length of groceries, and then print out groceries at that value. This would work as well. I put too many. Oh, I forgot that. You could do this, but this is far worse. So you can do for food in range in groceries, which is a list. And then you can do stuff with food. For example, I don't know, printing it out. That's what I already showed you. Does anyone have any questions on this? All right, I don't see any questions, so let's continue. Here are some practice problems which I'll work with you guys. So write a function that finds the sum of all elements in a list. Let me just copy these over. And let me, oops. This is making it a comment. All right. So let's try coding the first one. Write a function that finds the sum of all elements in a list. All right, let's say L is equal to list of 1, 2, 5. The sum of this would be sum is 8. All right, let's try to write that function. Def sum or list sum. All right, let's see. How can we do this? We first have to define a function, and let's take as input a list. Let's call it L. You could call it anything. All right, let's see. How can we do this? We can give it a name for the sum, or I'll just call it S because it's easier to type. And we need to start off the given let's start with 0, right? Because when you don't have any elements, sum is 0. Now we can do for I in L. What this will do is it will iterate through every value. In this example, it'll go 1, 2, and 5. I will be first 1, then 2, and then 5. And then we can just add that to S. So S equals S plus I. Then we just need to return it. Return S. Print list sum of L. 8. All right, good. We did the first one. Write a function that finds the largest number in a list. All right, that might be a bit more tricky. Let's just continue with this list. Let's say to sum it, the largest number is 5. I don't think anyone objects to that, so let's go. Def, let's call it largest. Take a list and then clone. So how can we do this? Well, we could do something similar to this, but instead of doing S equals S plus I, and remember, I in range, I in L means I will be each of these values, we can do an if statement. If, and in this case, you would want it to be something very, very small. That's pretty small. If I is greater than S, remember, I will be each of these values, then S equals I. This should give us the largest number. Say print largest in L. 5. All right, next one. Write a function that gives a random element in a list. All right, a bit more tricky, but we can do this. Let's see. Well, we first need to import the library, random. Normally you import stuff at the top of a file. Put it here. Import random. Def rand element. Taking a list like before. And now let's see. By the way, if you have any questions along the way, put them in chat and we'll answer them. All right, so how can we do this? Well, we know random.randint will give us a random value. So this, if you do random 1 to 100, it'll give you a random value from 1 to 100 inclusive. But we don't want 1 to 100 because that's kind of useless to us here. So let's start 0 because that's where indexes start at. But where do we go to? Well, we can go to the length of the list. So go from 0 to len of L. And if we were to try this, you would find that if you're trying enough times, you get an error. Because length of list would be 6, and let me just show you here. Or length, this one would be 3. Print len L at 3. What this would give us is an error. All right, that gives us an error because it's unmatched parentheses, but it still give you an error. List index out of range. 2, on the other hand, would give you 5. So how we can fix this is subtract 1. Does everyone get why you would subtract 1 from the length? I don't see any questions or anyone saying no, so let's continue. And let's call this B for value. Now we just return L at B. Let's try this out. Let's try it out 10 times. For I in range 10, and rand element of L. Because we're running a bit short on time, this will be the last problem I do. And as you can see, these are somewhat random, and it's fine if they're all 5s at the start. And yeah, it works. And this is the last one that I'm going to be doing because we're running a bit short on time. So we have some independent problems. You don't have to do them all. You guys have 6 minutes. Class will end at 4:50. Also, please tell us when you're done with problem 3.
Actually, type in the chat and say done when you finish the first two questions.
All right, since we're running a bit low on time, we're gonna move on a bit. So to go over the stuff that we are supposed to do. So after this, we're going to do a book name database. However, since the class ends in 5 minutes, we do not have time. So what this is you create a list that stores the title of books, and then the user can say add, remove, or they can ask how many books are in the list. That they can ask for the titles of all the books, or ask if a certain book is in the list. So this would be for a loop, an infinite loop, that where it asks the user for input, and they can write add, like add book, remove book, how many books, titles, or is a book inside of it. You'd have these functions written, and yeah, that's basically what you do. We're also going to go over 2D lists. However, I'm pretty sure we should go over them next time. So yeah, that's what we were supposed to do this time. We're probably going to go over it next time. And yeah, so I'm just going to go over so I'm going to go over the book name database, since that was a project that we're supposed to do. So you basically write a program which would ask the user for input, and this is probably going to be optional homework if you want, since we're probably not going to go over it next time. So if you want to do it at home, you can. You should have access to the slides. So the program asks the user what would they like to do. So you'd have a prompt, for example, what do you want to do? Then the user can say these things: add, remove, how many, titles, or certain book. You'd ask, and you'd have an if statement. If input is add, then do this. You'd call add book, which would add a book to the database. And you can have, after you add something, you could ask another input, what book do you want to add? What book do you want to remove? Or what book do you want to find out if it's in it? And then you would print it out. So I have a sample of this. All right, so here you can see like what the questions are. So let's run it. What do you want to do? I want to add, and book title is Brave New World. Great book if you want to read it. What do you want to do? Remove. A, and it'll give an error. You could, if you want, to put error detection, so it just says something nice instead. What do you want to do? Add 1984, which is great book as well. Print. And that's all the books I have. I can also add another one. Cool book. I don't know what titles. Print, and I'll print out those. And now if I type remove, let's remove cool book because that's not an actual book. And if I print them out now, it's only one. Contains cool book. No, it does not. Contains 1984. It does. That wasn't implemented yet, ICS. And this is basically what you would do. Try implementing this at home. If you don't have time or you just don't want to, it's fine, I guess, but it would be good practice. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're supposed to do. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, thank you everyone for your diligence. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, thanks for dedication and going through the entire presentation and all of the work. Have a good day, everyone.
Goodbye. Thanks for attending.
Thank you for coming. Goodbye.